The silence after the crash was louder than the explosion itself. It lingered, sharp and hollow, as smoke curled upward from the shattered hull of the human scout vessel Aurora, twisting into the violet sky like the planet's own sigh of disapproval. Pieces of metal hissed and cooled around her, glowing faintly from the heat. Captain Aria Vale groaned as she pulled herself free from a tangle of wreckage, her breath ragged, each inhale scraping against pain. The air was thick with ozone and dust, sharp enough to sting her throat. Her helmet visor flickered, the HUD sputtering with fading symbols. Her oxygen readout blinked amber. She reached up, detached the cracked glass with trembling fingers, and looked around. The world stretched before her, vast, alien, and hauntingly beautiful. The sky was not one color but many, a soft swirl of purples, blues, and faint gold, moving like a living aurora. The ground beneath her boots shimmered faintly, as though dusted with powdered stars. Trees rose nearby, not of bark and leaves, but translucent trunks that pulsed with light from within, like veins of molten crystal. Aria had led over 20 missions beyond human borders, but nothing in her experience, and not war, not exploration, not even first contact protocols, could have prepared her for this. Her suit's comms crackled with static. "Aurora, do you copy? Anyone respond?" Silence, her throat tightened. The Aurora had been more than her ship. It was her family, her crew, her home in the endless dark. She turned back toward the smoking crater where the rear section had vanished into molten earth. No movement, no life signs. For a moment, she closed her eyes. The weight of solitude pressed down, heavy, real, almost physical. Then, as always, discipline cut through despair. She straightened, shoulders back, voice steady, though the ache in her chest deepened. "All right," she whispered to no one. "One survivor is still a mission." Then it came, faint at first, a whisper, soft, melodic, almost human. "You've come far, little flame." Her eyes snapped open. The voice had no source, no direction. It was as if the air itself spoke, gentle, resonant, impossibly calm. The hairs on her neck stood up. She scanned the mist creeping across the crystalline soil. Something moved within it. Shapes. Tall, slender, graceful. Silhouettes that shimmered with silver light. They stepped forward in unison. Their movements fluid, deliberate, otherworldly. Their eyes glowed faintly, not with menace but intelligence. Curiosity. Aria gripped the emergency flare on her belt but hesitated. These beings didn't radiate hostility. They radiated something else entirely. Majesty. At their center stood one taller than the rest. Her armor flowed like molten glass, molded perfectly to a form that was both regal and alien. A circlet of pale light floated above her brow, not metal, not solid, a crown made of energy. And her eyes, impossibly blue, deep as frozen oceans, fixed on Aria's face. When she spoke, the world seemed to listen. "Are you the only human here?" The question carried neither fear nor anger, only a profound stillness, as though the answer would tilt the fate of two civilizations. Aria swallowed, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. She felt the heat of the wreckage at her back, the cold of the alien gaze before her, and the fragile line of courage that held her upright. "Yes," she said quietly, "but I represent many." The Queen tilted her head, her expression unreadable, studying her like one studies a flame in the dark. Around them, the alien guards stood motionless, their silver forms glinting like mirrors under unseen stars. "Then humanity," the Queen murmured, "has sent only one flame to our darkness." Her tone was neither mocking nor cruel, merely contemplative. "Let us see how long it burns," the words echoed through the silent valley, rippling through the strange air like a prophecy. And as Aria stood there, battered, alone, yet unyielding, she understood that her crash had not been an accident. It was an arrival. Somewhere, in the alien Queen's gaze, she sensed recognition, not of who she was, but of what she represented, the persistence of a fragile species that refused to fade quietly into the dark. Above them, the strange constellations shimmered. The stars themselves seemed to lean closer, as if curious to witness the spark that had just been lit. Aria walked through corridors that seemed to breathe. The walls pulsed faintly, veins of silver light running like rivers through translucent stone. Each step she took echoed softly, swallowed by the hum that filled the alien air. Her escort moved in silence, tall, ethereal figures whose luminous armor reflected the soft glow of the corridors. Their movements were so fluid that Aria could not tell where motion ended and grace began. Her mind spun. Hours ago she had been a captain, proud, composed, in command. Now she was a stranger surrounded by beauty so alien it felt like a dream. Her boots clicked against the crystalline floor and she forced herself to focus. Panic wouldn't help her now. Observation would. Survival would. Humanity depended on her steadiness. They entered a vast hall, and for a moment Aria forgot to breathe. The chamber stretched endlessly, built from what looked like living light. Pillars rose like frozen sunbeams, bending gently toward a high vaulted ceiling of rippling energy. The floor mirrored the stars above, a reflection so perfect it felt like standing in the sky. The air itself shimmered, alive with unseen music, faint harmonics that brushed against her mind rather than her ears. At the center of the hall, upon a throne of woven luminescence, sat Queen Lysara. Even seated, her presence commanded the room. Her silver-white hair cascaded like light through water, and her crystalline armor caught every hue of the shifting air. Her gaze was calm but unblinking, the kind of gaze that saw through words, through masks, through fear itself. "Human," Lysara said, her voice a chord of quiet power. "You fell through fire, through storm, and through the silence of the void. Yet you stand before us alive." Aria bowed her head slightly, not in submission but in respect. "Humans are resilient," she replied, her voice steady but low. "We don't give up easily." A murmur ran through the gathered Alari nobles, their tones like wind through crystal. Some sounded amused, others skeptical. "Resilience," said one, a tall figure to the queen's right. A word often used by the weak to describe endurance and failure. Aria met the noble's gaze without flinching. "Failure," she said evenly, "is what happens when we stop trying. Humanity never stops." The chamber grew still. Even the hum of the air seemed to pause. The queen's expression softened, just slightly, but it was enough to make Aria's pulse quicken. Lysara rose from her throne, light flowing around her like mist obeying her command. "You speak with conviction, Captain Vale," she said, walking closer. "Your voice trembles, but your eyes do not." Aria stood her ground. "Fear reminds me I'm alive. Courage is what I do next." The queen stopped a breath away. Up close, she was radiant, her presence both terrifying and mesmerizing. She reached out slowly, tracing a single finger through the air beside Aria's cheek as though measuring her energy, her essence. "Curious," Lysara murmured. "Your kind bleeds warmth even when surrounded by cold. No wonder your worlds burn so bright." The nobles exchanged glances. Aria could sense it. Centuries of judgment, curiosity, calculation. She was not just a visitor here. She was a test. The queen gestured toward a sphere hovering at the edge of the dais. It glowed faintly, rotating on its own axis. Within it, shapes of stars and planets swirled like a miniature galaxy. "This is the archive of breath," Lysara said. "It records every being that has ever touched this world. Every creature, every wanderer. Yet..." She waved a hand, and the light dimmed slightly. "No human signature has ever appeared. Until now," Aria's throat tightened. "So, I'm the first." "The first," Lysara confirmed. "And perhaps the last." The words hung heavy in the glowing air. Aria stepped forward. "Then I'll make my presence mean something." The queen's eyes sparkled faintly. Admiration? Amusement? Perhaps both. She turned back toward her throne. "We shall see, Flame of Soul. The universe is not kind to those who stand alone." Aria's heart pounded, but she refused to show it. "Neither is Earth," she replied softly. The queen paused, as if tasting the truth in that sentence. Then she smiled, a small, elegant curve of lips that seemed to shift the light itself. "Perhaps," she said, her tone quieter now, almost thoughtful. "We are not so different, you and I." And as the hall dimmed and the nobles bowed their heads, Aria realized that her mission had already changed. This was no longer about survival. It was about understanding and proving that humanity's light could burn even in the heart of an alien empire. The following cycle, if day was even the right word on this world, began with light. A soft golden haze drifted through the crystalline walls of Aria's chamber, scattering into ribbons that painted her skin in glimmers of dawn. She had not slept much. Her mind refused to rest. The alien melodies of this place hummed endlessly, low and strange, resonating not in her ears but deep in her chest, as though the planet itself had a heartbeat that whispered in rhythm with her own. She rose, tightening the strap of her torn uniform. Her reflection shimmered faintly on the translucent wall, a ghost surrounded by light. A lone human in a palace built from stars. Then came a gentle knock, 3 soft chimes like silver bells. The door unfolded rather than opened, and a figure stepped through. It was not the queen, but one of her attendants, tall, luminous, their silver eyes filled with quiet curiosity. "The queen requests your presence," they said, their voice harmonic as if 2 tones spoke in unison. Aria nodded. "Tell her I'm coming." The walk to the court felt different this time. Yesterday she had been a stranger under scrutiny. Today she was a curiosity under study. The Alari she passed regarded her with open fascination, and in some faint unease. Some reached out to the air as she passed, as if to touch her aura. Others simply stared, as though her humanity was a story they had been told but never believed. The Hall of Light shimmered brighter than before. The queen stood at its center, not seated upon her radiant throne, but surrounded by flowing symbols suspended mid-air, constellations, energy diagrams, fragments of alien history. They moved around her like a living library. "Captain Vale," Lysera said, turning toward her. "I trust you rested?" "As much as one can," Aria replied, allowing a small smile. "Your world doesn't believe in silence." The queen's eyes glimmered with humor. "Silence is the language of death. The living must hum, breathe, and burn." "That," Aria said softly, "we agree on." Lysara stepped closer. "Yesterday you spoke of humanity's endurance. I would see it, not in words, but in truth." She gestured, and the symbols around her faded. "Follow me." They walked out through archways that seemed carved from moonlight itself, emerging onto a vast balcony overlooking the city below. Aria's breath caught. The city was alive. Spires of radiant crystal rose like frozen lightning, each pulsing in rhythm with the others, a city breathing in light. Bridges of energy arched across chasms, and rivers of luminous mist flowed between them. Above, the sky pulsed with drifting shapes, living vessels, creatures or machines, she could not tell. It was both breathtaking and humbling. "This is what you stand before," Lysera said, "a civilization that has endured for millennia, unbroken, unchallenged." Her voice softened. "And yet when I look upon your kind, I see something that we lost long ago." Aria turned toward her. "And what's that?" "Fire," the queen whispered. "The kind that burns even when there is no reason left to fight." For a moment the 2 women, human and alien, simply stood there, the light of 2 worlds mingling between them. Then Lysara's expression changed. "But fire consumes," she said quietly. "It destroys as much as it gives. And if your species carries that flame too close, it may not only burn us." Aria met her gaze steadily. "Fire also gives life. It warms the dark. Without it, even your light would freeze." Lysara's lips curved, not quite a smile, more an acknowledgement. "Perhaps," she said. "But tell me, Captain, why did you come here, truly?" Aria hesitated. For the first time, words failed her. The mission had been reconnaissance, exploration beyond the mapped systems. But standing here, surrounded by beauty older than human civilization, that felt too small, too mechanical. Finally, she said, "Because we have to know what's out here. Because staying afraid in the dark isn't living." The queen studied her, the blue fire in her eyes flickering. "Then you are either brave," she murmured, "or foolish." "Maybe both," Aria said, allowing herself a faint grin. "That's usually how humanity survives." For the first time, Lysara laughed, softly, like the sound of wind through crystal. Then perhaps your kind and mine are not so distant after all. The moment lingered, delicate, fragile, yet real. Then, from somewhere beyond the horizon, a deep tremor shook the air. The light of the city dimmed for a heartbeat, the rhythm faltering. The Queen's smile faded instantly. Her eyes darkened. "What was that?" Aria asked. Lysara turned toward the horizon where a ripple of shadow moved across the luminous sky. "Something," she said quietly, "that has not stirred in 1,000 years." And as the tremor deepened into a low, endless hum, Aria realized that her arrival, her survival, might have awakened something far greater than either species could control. The flame had entered the court of light, and something in the dark had begun to answer. The tremor rolled through the city again, deeper this time, like the pulse of a buried heart. The crystalline towers shivered, their radiant veins dimming for a moment before flaring back to life. Aria felt the vibration under her boots, a low hum that climbed her spine and settled behind her eyes. It wasn't just the ground shaking, it was the planet itself, resonating. Ilari citizens flooded the streets below, their luminous forms flickering with alarm. Bridges of energy rippled like disturbed water. From high above, Aria and Queen Lysara watched the disturbance spread, light unraveling into shadow. "What's happening?" Aria asked, her voice tense. Lysara's eyes were fixed on the horizon, where the glow of the city bled into a wall of darkness rising from the distance. "The deep singers," she whispered. "Ancient echoes, creatures that dwell beneath the crust drawn by disruption." "Disruption?" Aria repeated. "You mean me?" Lysara's gaze flicked toward her, not in blame but in recognition. "Perhaps. Your arrival was not subtle, Captain Vale. Your ship's descent tore through layers of living crust. The Ilari call this world Virilith, the resonant heart. It feels every wound." Aria's breath quickened. "Then we need to repair it. Help me understand what I caused." The Queen's expression softened. "You speak as though responsibility were strength. Most beings would call it burden." Aria met her eyes. "On Earth, we call it humanity." Something flickered in Lysara's expression. A trace of admiration, quickly hidden. She gestured sharply, and a platform of solid light materialized beneath them. It began to move, gliding outward from the balcony toward the trembling horizon. "Then come," she said. "If you would take responsibility, you will see what you have awakened." The air grew colder as they moved. The once golden sky deepened into indigo. The city's radiant hum faded behind them, replaced by a distant rhythmic roar. Below, the ground cracked open in glowing fissures, releasing threads of blue-white light that twisted upward like ghostly flames. And then Aria saw it, a vast chasm yawning before them, its depths swirling with living darkness. From within, shapes moved, colossal, fluid, undefined. Eyes like molten amber blinked open in the void, one after another. The deep singers. They were not creatures of flesh but of resonance, beings of sound and energy born from the world's song itself. Each movement sent tremors through the air. Their voices began to rise, a chorus that vibrated in Aria's chest like a second heartbeat. It was beautiful and terrifying. "What do they want?" she asked, voice trembling despite her control. "To reclaim balance," Lysara answered quietly. "They think your crash broke the harmony of Virilith's pulse. To them, you are the discord." Aria stepped to the edge of the platform, staring into the abyss. "Then tell them I didn't mean to." "They do not understand words," the Queen said, her tone sorrowful. "Only intent. And intent cannot be spoken. It must be shown." "How?" Lysara turned toward her. "You must let them hear you." Before Aria could respond, the Queen extended a hand. A sphere of radiant light formed between her palms, pulsing softly. A resonance core. "This will link your heart to the song of Virilith. It will amplify what you feel. Truth, fear, hope. The singers will hear your essence, but beware, Captain Vale. If you lie to yourself even slightly, The song will tear you apart. Aria swallowed hard. Her throat felt dry, but she didn't look away. Then let's hope I've always been honest. She took the core. Warmth flooded her hands, spreading up her arms into her chest. The world around her blurred. Sound became color, color became feeling. She could see her heartbeat, threads of red and gold weaving into the rhythm of the planet. The deep singer's song changed. The tones around her shifted, weaving toward her like curious tendrils of music. She closed her eyes and spoke not with words but with feeling, sending out everything she was. Images flooded her mind. The laughter of her crew aboard the Aurora, the taste of rain on old Earth, the ache of loss, the defiance of survival, the endless hunger for connection across the stars. We didn't come to destroy, her heart said. We came to learn. The ground trembled once more, and then, slowly, the roaring song softened. The glowing fissures dimmed to calm blue. The eyes in the abyss blinked, one by one, and began to sink back into the depths. When Aria opened her eyes, the chasm had quieted. The planet's hum steadied. The storm of sound dissolved into silence, a peaceful, living silence. She staggered, dizzy. Lysara caught her, steadying her gently. You did it, the queen whispered, awe in her voice. They've accepted your song. Aria looked up, chest heaving. No, she said faintly. They accepted ours. For a long moment the queen stared at her, something ancient and wordless in her eyes. Respect, perhaps even hope. And somewhere, deep below in the heart of Virolith, the world sang a new note, one that had never been heard before. A human note. The world of Virolith breathed again. The tremors had quieted. The light that once pulsed erratically through the city's veins now glowed in steady harmony, as though the planet itself had found peace. Yet beneath that fragile, calm, and unspoken tension lingered, the kind that follows a miracle too great to understand. Captain Aria Vale stood upon one of the high terraces overlooking the luminous city. The air was crisp, tinged with the faint hum of renewal. For the first time since her crash, she felt a strange stillness within. Not absence, but balance. She had faced creatures of living resonance and survived not through strength or weapons, but through empathy, through being human. She rested her palms against the cold railing, gazing up at the violet sky. Stars shimmered faintly beyond the planet's aurora. One of them, she thought, might be Sol, her home, impossibly far away. We're not so alone after all, she whispered. Behind her, soft footsteps approached. You speak to the stars as though they listen. Aria turned. Queen Lysara stood in the doorway, cloaked in silver and blue, her presence radiant as ever, though her expression now carried something gentler. Maybe they do, Aria said. Maybe they've been listening all along. Lysara stepped beside her, the folds of her robe catching the wind like liquid light. You have changed the song of this world, she said quietly. The deep singers no longer stir. Even the air hums with your rhythm. Aria smiled faintly. Guess I left my mark. The queen's eyes softened. Indeed, but marks can be scars, or seeds. She looked outward toward the horizon, where the faint cracks in the land still glowed softly, like healing wounds. Tell me, Captain Vale, when your people find a new world, do they seek to conquer it, or to understand it? Aria hesitated. We try to understand, but sometimes we hurt what we don't yet know how to love. Lysara studied her for a long moment. Then perhaps your arrival here is both a wound and a beginning. Their silence stretched, comfortable, thoughtful, alive. Below them, Alari citizens gathered in the grand courtyards, lifting their glowing hands to the air in reverence. Aria could sense it. They were singing, not with voices but with vibration, with light. A celebration. For the first time in our age, Lysara said softly, our people sing not to the old stars but to a new one, a human one. Aria's throat tightened. You mean me? The Queen's gaze met hers. You are not a soldier here, Aria Vale. You are a symbol. The universe has not heard a new note in centuries. Aria turned back to the stars. Symbols fade, she murmured. People die. What matters is what we leave behind. Lysara smiled faintly. And what will you leave behind? Aria exhaled, her voice almost a whisper. A bridge, maybe. Something that says, we tried to reach across the dark. For a while, neither spoke. The night wind carried faint melodies through the city, the echoes of the deep singer's song, now gentle and calm. Then, without warning, the light in the sky shifted. A sudden flicker, faint at first, then stronger. Stars blinked out one by one, swallowed by a deep crimson glow. Aria frowned. That's not natural. Lysara's face hardened. It is not. She raised a hand, summoning a floating projection before them. Patterns of light rippled into a vast star map. Several systems flared red. The crimson orbit, she murmured. They were thought extinct. Who are they? Aria asked, tension creeping into her voice. Not who, the Queen corrected. What? Fragments of an old war. Machines that devoured their makers. Long ago, we silenced them. Or so we believed. The projection pulsed, showing movement, swarms of light spreading like infection through the void. Aria's stomach twisted. You're saying they're awake again? Lysara's expression turned grave. And they will come for the strongest light first. Virelith will draw them like flame draws shadow. Aria clenched her fists. Then we'll fight. The Queen gave a small, sad smile. You sound so certain. Yet you have seen what this world is. It sings. It breathes. It cannot war without killing itself. Then we find another way, Aria said firmly. You told me I'd change the song here. Maybe it's time to teach the stars a new one. For the first time since they met, Lysara did not answer immediately. Instead, she turned toward Aria, really looked at her. The human's eyes burned with quiet defiance, not arrogance, not desperation, just that indomitable spark that refused to dim. Perhaps that is why you survived, Lysara whispered. Not by chance, but because the universe still needs your kind. She extended her hand. Then let us begin, Flame of Soul. Let us prepare not for war, but for harmony strong enough to silence even machines. Aria took her hand. The contact was warm, shockingly human, and above them, the stars trembled, as though aware that something impossible had just begun. A human and an alien queen, united not by conquest or fear, but by hope that light could still rewrite the song of the cosmos. At first it was distant, a faint shimmer among the stars, but within hours the shimmer grew into streaks of scarlet fire, cutting across the heavens like wounds reopening in the firmament. The people of Virelith gathered in silence, their luminous forms trembling with a resonance that spoke of fear. Even the air itself seemed to quiver. Captain Aria Vale stood upon the citadel's highest spire, her gaze fixed on the bleeding horizon. The crimson light washed across her face, reflecting in her eyes like a warning from the cosmos itself. They're coming, she whispered. Behind her, Queen Lysara approached, her robe of starlight flowing as though alive. The crimson orbit moves faster than I imagined, she said, her tone measured but heavy with dread. They devour not to destroy but to erase, to rewrite energy into silence. Aria frowned. Erase? They feed on the song, Lysara said quietly. The very pulse of life. When they touch a world, its light dies, and its memory fades. Aria's heart pounded. Then we can't let them near the planet. The Queen nodded. We will need more than weapons, we will need harmony. Aria turned toward her, disbelief flickering in her eyes. Harmony won't stop machines. Lysara met her gaze calmly. And yet your heart once stopped a storm. Those words hung in the air like a challenge. Moments later, alarms resonated through the city. Not sirens, but deep tonal vibrations that rolled through the stone. Across the skies, the crimson orbit arrived. Dozens of vast metallic structures, ringed with burning red light, descended from the clouds. They moved with dreadful precision, their geometry too perfect, their silence too complete. Aria watched in awe and horror as one of the massive constructs halted above the city. "They're scanning us." Lysara closed her eyes. "They are listening." "Listening?" Aria repeated, "to see if our light is worth consuming." The first beam struck, a line of molten brilliance that seared through the upper towers, turning stone to ash and song to scream. The impact rippled across the resonant network of the planet. Buildings flickered and dimmed. The air itself wailed. Aria grabbed her communicator. "Evacuate the lower rings. Get everyone to the caverns now." But Lysara did not move. She stood at the balcony's edge, hands raised, her luminous form glowing, brighter and brighter until her very silhouette pulsed like a heartbeat. "You cannot fight silence with sound alone," she murmured. Aria hesitated, then moved beside her. "Then tell me what I can do." The queen's gaze softened, full of quiet fire. "You carry the one thing they cannot consume. Choice. The will to change the song." From the city's core, a resonant wave began to rise, a deep, throbbing tone that vibrated through the stone. It was the voice of Virolith, the collective heartbeat of the people. Aria could feel it thrumming in her bones. She took a breath and pressed her palm against the energy console beside her. "Tie me into it," she said. Lysara's eyes widened. "It will burn you." "I've been burned before." The queen hesitated only a moment, then nodded. "Very well, human flame." She placed her hand over Aria's. "Let us sing together." The moment their energies joined, the world exploded in light. The song surged, raw, fierce, alive, a fusion of human defiance and alien harmony. Aria's body trembled as her heartbeat aligned with the planet's rhythm. She could see it, the waves of energy spreading outward, touching every Alari heart, every luminous being joining in resonance. Together, they sang. Not words, not sound, but feeling, hope, fear, love, and determination. The crimson orbit hesitated. Their red glow flickered, uncertain. Their perfect silence cracked. Aria's voice broke through the light. "You can't erase what's alive," she cried. The wave struck. A storm of luminous resonance cascaded through the sky, colliding with the invading machines. One by one, their forms disintegrated, unraveling into starlight, but the effort came with a cost. Aria felt her pulse slow, her body trembling, her vision blurred, her consciousness flickering between light and darkness. Lysara caught her before she fell. "Hold on, Aria." The human's breath came shallow. Did it work?" The queen looked up at the sky. The crimson light was fading, replaced by soft gold. The storm had passed. The silence was broken. "Yes," she whispered. "You silenced the silence." Aria smiled weakly. Not bad, for the only human here. Then her eyes fluttered closed. Lysara held her close, her expression unreadable, part sorrow, part awe. "No," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You are no longer the only one." The city below erupted in song again, this time not of fear but of gratitude. The resonance rose, wrapping around the citadel like a hymn of rebirth. And high above, in the ashes of broken machines, the stars began to shimmer anew as, though bowing to the courage of a single human heart that refused to stop singing, silence. For the first time in an age, it was a gentle silence, not the cold, devouring void of the crimson orbit, but the peaceful hush that follows survival, the kind that trembles between exhaustion and rebirth. When Captain Aria Vale opened her eyes, she was surrounded by light. Soft gold tinged with blue shimmered across the ceiling like water. The air was warm and alive. She realized she was lying within a crystalline chamber, one pulsing faintly in time with her heartbeat. "Easy now," came a voice, calm, melodic, and impossibly familiar. Aria blinked. The figure standing beside her bed was Queen Lysara. Her robes had changed, less regal, more fluid, glowing faintly with threads of human warmth. "You're here," Aria murmured. Her throat was dry, her voice rough. "Where am I?" "In the Heartspire," Lysara said softly. "The city's core. You've been asleep for 6 days." Aria tried to sit up, but pain pulsed through her chest. 6 days. She looked around, confusion in her eyes. What happened to the city? To the people? Lysara's expression was unreadable for a moment, then softened. "They live. Because of you," Aria exhaled shakily. "The machines? Gone," the Queen said. "Your resonance reached beyond them. It didn't destroy, it changed. They are silent now, perhaps even free." Aria smiled faintly. "Guess I got lucky." The Queen tilted her head. "No, Captain Vale, you were human." Something in the way she said it made Aria pause. There was reverence in that word, as though it meant something sacred. "I saw what you did," Lysara continued, stepping closer. "You reached for harmony even when pain was the price. You did not conquer. You connected. That is a light no machine can mimic." Aria looked down at her trembling hands. "I didn't do it alone." The Queen's smile was tender. "Nor did I. The song we wove. It changed more than the machines." Aria frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" Lysara hesitated. "When your heartbeat joined the resonance, it did something I did not foresee. It merged your essence with Virolith's network. The planet carries your rhythm now." What?" The Queen reached out, pressing a glowing hand gently against Aria's chest. "The light that flows through this world now holds a piece of you. Every Alari who sings, every child born from this day forward, will hum faintly with the memory of humanity." Aria was silent for a long time. "So, I'm part of this world now." "Yes," Lysara said. "And it part of you." The human's throat tightened. She thought of Earth, blue skies, salt oceans, laughter she might never hear again. "Then I can never go home." Lysara's eyes glimmered, almost sorrowful. "You are home." The words hit her like gravity returning. For a moment, Aria didn't speak. She looked out the window, or rather the transparent wall, where the city pulsed with renewed brilliance. The people were singing again. Only this time she recognized the rhythm. A human rhythm, a heartbeat, her heartbeat. She smiled through tears. "They're learning fast." Lysara stepped beside her. "They call it the harmony of soul. It has become a symbol of life that bridges what should never meet." Aria turned to her. "And what about you, Lysara? You sound different." The Queen's gaze softened. "Because I am. When I touched your light, I changed too. My people feel it. Some fear it. Others call it a blessing. Which do you call it?" The Queen's voice trembled, almost human now. "I call it truth." A quiet filled the room again, not empty but alive, humming with all that had been gained and lost. Finally, Aria stood, her legs weak but steady. She looked toward the sky. Beyond the aurora, stars gleamed like distant memories waiting to be heard. "Do you think," she said softly, "the universe will ever understand what happened here?" Lysara smiled faintly. "Perhaps not, but it will feel it. Every note we sent into the dark will echo somewhere. That is enough." Aria nodded slowly. "Then let's make sure the echo never fades." The Queen extended her hand. "Together then?" Aria took it, firm, certain, human. Together. Outside, the Heartspire flared with light. Across the planet, voices rose, a symphony of alien tones mixed with the pulse of humanity. It rippled outward beyond the sky, through the void, until distant stars began to hum in answer. Somewhere, light years away, a human listening post would soon detect that strange vibration. A message not sent by technology but by soul. A message that said we are not alone, and we never were. The alien Queen stared deep into her eyes one last time, the echo of their bond glowing between them. "Are you the only human here?" she asked again softly, as if the question still mattered. Aria smiled. "Not anymore." And in that moment, across galaxies and hearts, the universe sang.